Good evening, gentlemen. I think I have time for another small video with you all, and this time it's going to be on Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. I'm a very small man to say anything about Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru, who was India's first Prime Minister for 17 years. I think he laid the foundation of a democracy in India, but one cannot deny the fact that he was a man who was obsessed with England and its democracy, and he imported the same system into India, and this Westminster model was not conducive to the Indian genius. So that's a fault which he committed. Second fault he committed was that he did not accept the basis of partition. Now, the Government of India Act passed by the British Parliament clearly specified a separate homeland for the Muslims, and obviously the two-nation theory got credence. And at that time, Nehru and Gandhi both accepted it. But when India became free, Pakistan, of course, became an Islamic state, while India opted for secularism. Nothing wrong with it, but the fact remains that the division was on the basis of religion, and India should have been at that stage declared a Hindu Rashtra. Well, there is no discussion now because Nehru was all powerful. Gandhi, of course, died and went away, and the one man who could have stood against Nehru, Sardar Patel, suffered a heart attack, and he also passed away in 1950, leaving Nehru all in all, and he went about his ideas with a vengeance. Firstly, the Westminster model of democracy introduced. Secondly, he made a slanted secularism which favored the minorities, basically the Muslims. I have yet not been able to understand that how Nehru, who had passed the Hindu Marriage Act, did not think it up to the mark or did not think it relevant that a similar act should be passed for the Muslims. Though in the Indian Constitution, in the directive principles, it is stated that there would be a uniform civil law for everybody. Well, Nehru had his faults. Another fault of Nehru was going in for the linguistic states. I don't know who was his advisor, because if he had studied history, he would have realized that India was never divided on a linguistic basis. Never. There was the Nizam who was ruling, and his Praja, or the people under him, consisted of the Marathas, the Tamils, the Telugus, everybody, including the Hindis. But unfortunately, as far as Nehru is concerned, he started what is known as the linguistic division of states, and that led to vociferous tendencies, as we can see now. Thirdly, he had some false or warped sense about the hill areas, the tribal areas, and he carried on with the same policy which the British had for the hill states like Nagaland and others. With the result, he did not pass any law, anything to bring about the integration of these states with India, and now we are paying the price for Nehru's folly. Another big problem which Nehru created was his dealing with China. I think he had a blind spot as far as China is concerned, because he didn't have a comprehension or an understanding of what is strategic dominance. He didn't believe in it. In fact, he believed in nothing. He believed in ahimsa, that's the fact. Because when in 1947 the chief of the Indian Army went with some proposals to Nehru for the removal of the Indian Army, he is reported to have thrown the proposals away and said, "I don't need the army." So that "I don't need the army" refrain continued, and India lost Tibet, India lost Aksai Chin, and Nehru was sitting on his haunches. Now, this is one of the very sad episodes of history, that Nehru had everything going for him. India was a much developed society and country than China in 1947. We had an aircraft carrier, we had an aircraft factory, we had locomotive factories, we had tea plantations, we had a steel plant. You can think of anything. India was well off. China was involved in a civil war for 50 years. And yet, with such a start, Nehru frittered everything away. And now, for people to talk that his memory should be revered, I think they're talking all out of place. The problem has come because Nehru's house, which earlier was the house of the Commander-in-Chief of the British Army, was converted into a museum with the name of Nehru's Museum. But the Indian government, that is now the BJP government, has decided that its name should be changed and it should be dedicated to all the Prime Ministers of India. I think nothing wrong with it, because we must bring Nehru down from the pedestal he's been put in by the Congress party. If you go through the history of the economics of India and the developments which has taken place and a lot of face which we lost in the world with the defeat with China, failure to capture Kashmir, creating the Kashmir problem, you name every ill in India which is now like an anchor round the neck of the Indian leadership can be traced to Nehru. As I said, Nehru was a great man, but greatness means living that greatness, leaving a legacy behind. And unfortunately, Nehru's legacy is suspect. I don't want to dwell wrong on this gentleman. Just think over whatever I said. I have raised a few points. You may think over them. Perhaps India would have been better off if Panditji had not been the Prime Minister of India. Well, that can't be helped. I will close now and say, gentlemen, Jai Hind, glory to India. Do subscribe to my channel, come back and share it with your friends, and look after yourself. God bless. Bye-bye.